This week on Arizona Illustrated, Tom Phillabaum, the glass man.
One of the things that I really like about glass is that it almost promotes risk-taking because it's dangerous, it's hot, you can get burned, you can get cut.
The detective searching for answers.
Over the years, when you would hear a body's been found, and that still brings back, could that be her? Is it her?
And Andy Burgess with an eye on architecture.
After a while, I painted myself into a corner and I needed to paint something that was out in the real world.
Welcome to Arizona Illustrated. I'm Tom McNamara. Tom Phillabaum is an artist and a Tucson icon. Since the 70s, he spent his life in front of a 2,100-degree glory hole spinning molten glass at the end of an 8-foot-long blowpipe. Well, after 2 back surgeries, 2 knee surgeries, foot and shoulder surgery, he's nearing the end of his journey and plans to turn off the furnace for the last time in April. This is the Glass Man.
Sir, really nice to see you.
Thanks, Michael.
Love you, buddy.
Thank you, pal.
Retrospective.
Oh my goodness gracious. Lupita Murillo.
How are you, sweetie?
Since it's not quite 5 o'clock and we got a full house going on here, if you have no objections, find a seat. We could spill people around a little bit and we can get started early. Because I know you all have a dinner date somewhere. My name is Tom Phillabaum. I'm the owner and designer and artist of the Phillabaum Glass Gallery and Studios, and I've been in Tucson since 1975. I was born in Toledo, Ohio in 1947, and I was pretty much a straight kind of kid. You know, I played in the band, I played in the orchestra, I played in the football team. But once I got into the art program, it was like bib jeans and mud and paint all over me, and I loved it. And then when I went to college, in my spare time, all I did was draw. The walls, the ceilings, the windows, everything in my dorm room was covered with my drawings. And I was taking sociology and psychology and political science, academic stuff that I wasn't really interested in. And all my friends kept saying, "You fool, look around you. Why don't you just do what you love?" Oh, now we're going backwards. This painting's from undergraduate school, but I just wanted to show it because it shows how I'm still a hot guy. After I graduated, I took a job as an art teacher in a town called Belleville, Illinois. I had 11 schools and 3,500 students. I went room to room with boxes full of water and watercolors and pencils and pens. I was nuts. Anyway, at night I took graduate classes at Southern Illinois University at Edwardsville. And while I was there, I had a great time working in clay. But my professor said to me, "Phillabaum, your ideas are too fluid for clay. Have you ever thought of working in glass?" And my hair went, I stood on end and I went, "What do you mean glass?" He said, "Well, there's this guy teaching a class up the road in Madison, Wisconsin named Harvey Littleton, teaching glass in the graduate level. You should look into it." And just like that, my life was transformed. I said, "I'm going to learn to be a glass blower." I had a love affair with ceramics. I love clay. It's such a wonderful thing to work with. But in clay, everything is like being in the North Woods in the fall. Everything's muted tones and earth colors and stuff. And I wanted red, and I wanted yellow, and I wanted pink and blue.
Many years ago, I was a potter. A group of us formed an organization so that we could buy clay, mostly in bulk. And we were having a meeting one night at one of the people's homes downtown, and this guy showed up. and he came in with his portfolio.
And I was showing them my resume, my slides, because I'm Mr. Masters in Art.
Well, none of us had a portfolio, I can assure you.
And they said to me, "You moved here and you don't have any friends?" I moved to Tucson not knowing anybody. I just knew that this is where I wanted to live.
I'm thinking, oh, how tough to be in a new town and you don't know anyone.
So Dabney leaned out and she looked at me and she said,
I'll be your friend. And as soon as I said it, I went, ooh, what a stupid thing to say. Yeah. Oh, darn it, because he was so cute. And I did want to be his friend, but.
And we've been together for 40 years. One of the things that I really like about glass is that it almost promotes risk-taking because it's dangerous, it's hot, you can get burned, you can get cut.
There's an allure to fire. Don't we all have that on some level?
You have to be well prepared, you have to think things through. You just don't make glass.
Still, I can be mesmerized in the studio watching.
In the late 70s, we got pregnant with Ian. And at that time, I was doing all kind of odd jobs, driving dump trucks. I was the art teacher at South Point Catholic High School. And I made tumblers and I made wine glasses and they were selling, and so I was able to support my little family by doing that. So that was the beginning of it. And then about 1982 or 83, after the birth of our second child, Dabney and I sat down and we said, maybe we should get serious about this glass business.
I would do the books because I had babies and I was at home with babies, but I was the bookkeeper for this little business that was growing, but starting in a very simple way.
We made a list of all the things that we wanted to accomplish and the needs for our family. It was kind of a pact that we would, as a family, support this business and just see how far we could take it. I used to put wings on everything, and that's kind of a Phillabaum signature piece. I've done this pattern we call the reptilian pattern, which looks like snake skin. To work the glass, you have to respect the glass. You have to be careful, but not too careful. You have to be willing to take chances, but not make foolish moves.
We love to travel. We love to eat. We love to read. We used to hike a lot. It's hard for him to hike now, but we used to like to go out to Sabino and to Mount Lemmon.
Last spring, my wife was noticing things like tremors and speech patterns changing.
It was concerning to me, but I didn't quite know how to label it, or I had no idea what was going on.
So we went to neurologists, and in the spring of last year, they diagnosed me with Parkinson's disease.
We both just went, okay, what do we do now? Let's go.
It's having an effect on my ability to blow glass and to run the business, and so I'm scaling my life down a little bit and taking on a new role in the world. but I'm determined to make the best of it, so I'm exercising like a crazy man, and I work out about 2 to 3 hours a day, trying to recreate the dopamine that my brain is not producing.
This is a challenge, but my goodness, there are so many people that have greater challenges. So I just want to make the most of it, and I don't want to get anywhere close to being sucked down into its negativity. Not a chance. I want to power up, as Tom would say.
But here's what's cool. Here's the After God.
Here you are making.
Right, this piece. I'm looking forward to things like, I'm going to play hooky today. I never play hooky. I never like go to a matinee at the movies, you know, or have a beer in the afternoon. You know what I mean? Just doing something on a whim, because everything is like, got the work to do, got to do some more drawings, got to plan ahead, you know. So I want to loosen up my life.
In the life of a detective, one case usually stands out in their memory. On January 11th, 1996, a little girl named Karen Grajeda vanished without a trace. Detective Kathy Rau set out to find her, and the search changed her life forever.
Sometimes in law enforcement, they talk about the ghosts that you carry. I remember just driving home some nights, or even in later years in patrol, when I would be in that area, just looking around and going, where did she go? Where was she taken? What happened? By the end of the second day, we know statistically if we don't find missing children within 24 hours, if it's not a family abduction, that we're usually looking at a homicide. At the time of the Karen Grajeda disappearance, I was a detective with the Tucson Police Department with a newly formed sex offender registration and tracking unit that also had responsibility for responding to missing children cases. Karen actually disappeared January 11th at about 5:45. This area was the last sighting of Karen as far as the children were concerned. Karen had been roller skating with her little sister, and she went inside to put her skates away, and her mom told her it was almost time for dinner, and Karen said, "Can I just go out, play a little bit more?" She went out, and that's the last time her mother saw her. And at that time, I truly thought we were going to find Karen within the next couple of hours. You know, as you always do in these cases, you know, she went over to a friend's house, you know, spent the night, forgot to tell mom, you know, something happened, but Karen's gonna come walking up pretty soon. I remember that night got very cold. I was sitting with Rosalva, her mom. You know, kind of as a mom, you start thinking about your own kid out there, and she didn't have a jacket. And, you know, I really remember that because that was a time, you know, just two moms sitting out and this mom not knowing where her child was. There was no vegetation here. This was just a dirt lot. When I arrived here at the scene, we asked for the command post, which is just that big trailer that you see, so that detectives and commanders can have a place to meet and to get organized. Karen's mother had come over to the command post, as she would at night, I think just to have someone to talk to and maybe have a little bit of hope, because she knew we were working. And I told her the end of that second night, I said, don't lose hope. And I told her that I would never stop looking for Karen. You're big bad police officer, and the public's looking at you and the media's looking at you. So you gotta hold it together. And then you add not sleeping a couple of days on top of that. So I remember just going down the street and couldn't think about how to get home, and just pulled over and just had to let it out for a little while. Starting in about 1993, we had had a series of abductions and molests of young girls that looked just like Karen, same age, in this area. There was a concern, we have a serial child molester who's now turned into a serial killer. The DNA that was found in one of those cases related to Karen's case had come back with a DNA hit with a suspect, and that is the person that most of us involved in the investigation, believe is responsible for Karen's disappearance. However, we don't know that for sure, and Karen's body was never found. I don't know what it was about this case, because I've done probably over 1,000, 1,500 child abuse cases. I've done child death cases. I've done death notifications to parents. I don't know what it is about this case. I just feel some type of connection to Karen. Over the years, when you would hear a body's been found, or after a couple of years, the bones have been found, and that still brings back, could that be her? Is it her? I retired after 25 years. I was walking out the door, and I remember the door closed, and my first thought was, you never found Karen, and you promised you would never stop looking, so what are you gonna do now? So that really laid heavy on my heart. So an opportunity came up to work with Pima County JTAD. They were starting a law and public safety program for young high school kids that want to be police officers. So kind of in a naive way, I thought, well, if I could somehow influence young kids to really take this job seriously and know how to do these types of investigations correctly, maybe that's the way that I can honor my promise to Karen's mom. You learn in this job that there are not nice people in the world, and that there are people who enjoy hurting children. But I think this case brought home to me that there's true evil in this world. Because somebody that would take this little girl from this parking lot and do whatever they did to her and deprive her mom and our community of this little girl. It just instilled in me that there's true evil. And how are you going to fight that? What can you do to fight that other than just get up every day and do the best job that you can?
Like what you see on Arizona Illustrated? Visit our webpage at azpm.org to watch and share videos from this episode. You'll also find stories from future programs, an easy way to submit your own story idea, an archive of past episodes of Arizona Illustrated. And you'll find everything you need to stay connected with public broadcasting in Southern Arizona. azpm.org. Mid-century modern design and architecture is a passion for many Arizonans. For Andy Burgess, it's at the center of his life's work. It all changed for him when he started painting the City of London from the window of an upper-floor apartment. The geometric shapes of rooftops and streets and buildings became his muse. Now internationally recognized, he makes his home and his work right here in Tucson.
I moved directly from London, which is a city of 12, 15 million people, to Tucson. So it was a massive transition for me. It is such an alien environment. You could be on another planet. Good painting requires good drawing, so I've always been interested in drawing. I use an old-fashioned technique, which is you take your image and you draw a grid on the image that you're going to use. And then you draw the equivalent grid on your canvas, and then you, by hand, draw the image by referring to this. So you're blowing it up, as it were. But it's all by eye and it's all by hand. That's the starting point of the paintings, is exploring 3 dimensions within the 2-dimensional painting plane. From that, you then introduce color. I build the painting up in blocks of color. So it's quite architectural. It's more like a form of building than painting. Most of the color in my paintings is invented and heightened, and that's what I think affects people's emotions, because color is very emotive.
I want to welcome you here this evening. We're celebrating the opening of Mid-Century Perspectives, paintings by Andy Burgess and objects of modern design. So Andy, you want to come up here? So you got to be in front here.
Julie just told me to put the bed down.
He's a really shy guy, if you haven't noticed. TMA's been doing Free First Thursday for many years, and this is a first for us for Free First Thursday because we're actually now opening up community-based exhibitions in conjunction with this great program.
Well, this is a really exciting night. We've long had a very strong focus on art from the region, but because we've reconfigured where our exhibitions are held, the way the layout of the museum is, it appears that we're highlighting them. We always have.
That was a really nice sort of mini retrospective of the type of subject matter that I've approached in the last 10 years. When I was at college, I really got into painting. I really wanted to be an abstract painter. I was very interested in post-war abstraction, American abstraction, and British abstraction, obviously famous artists like Pollock and Rothko. After a while, I just painted myself into a corner, and I needed to paint something that was out in the real world. Abstract art, and modern architecture. Modern architecture is essentially very abstract. You know, it's planes, receding planes, flat planes and lines, steel beams, glass windows and doors. It appeals to me on an abstract level. I often get asked, were you an architect? Are you an architect? And I always have to say, no, I'm just a painter. I just like architecture.
It was such an attraction to his work because people could see the links to art history. And he's such also a fine technical painter and draftsman. But then when he moved to America, just like when Hockney moved to LA, there was this sense of excitement with the light and with the weather and with the, the feeling of color and the feeling of actually modernity as well.
In a way, it's the great sort of modern vernacular architecture of America was the way mid-century architecture flourished.
From the 50s and 60s, when you had a major surge in the city, you saw a very large rise, a very distinct sense of architecture that was happening here, and that's something that needs to be preserved and presented and also celebrated. And this is one way that we can celebrate that through the specific artist.
The Tucson light here, the really intense sunlight, really works for me. I like that because that lends itself to abstraction. When you have really strong forms of bright and dark, that becomes very graphic in itself.
I find it really fascinating that he comes from London, where all the light and the sky and the colors are subdued, and he's really found his home here in the Southwest because you can see it through his art.
Andy's kind of the new Tucson. I mean, there's this sort of global approach, but this really strong sense of regionalism, and you see that in Andy's work.
He has an international reputation. I mean, we're really fortunate to have him here in our midst. But another thing that I really like about Andy and his work is that he really is a part of the fabric of our community.
I want to be a part of a community here. As an artist, I'm interested in poetry, I'm interested in music, I'm interested in theater. It all feeds into what it means to be an artist. You have to be aware of your, what's going on culturally around you. So we're very lucky in Tucson.
I think he's extremely happy here. So I don't think there's any chance we're going to get him back to London full time.
Thank you for joining us here on Arizona Illustrated. Next week, Liam Pace catching big air and turning heads.
Liam kills it every time I see him skate.
The kid's got it going on. I mean, he can do just about anything.
There you go.
Thank you, sir.
Tiger's Tap Room at Hotel Congress.
Yes, I've heard a lot of stories, and good and the bad and the ugly. I can't tell you how many stories that are private. They trust the bartender.
And take a ride on the 100-mile loop in Tucson.
It's a gem. There's unlike anything like this in the country.
I'm Tom McNamara. See you then.